too.
But in my former
fees.
yeah, but in my former
Contractor metaphors. Usually we do ag metaphors in this room, but
I learned by bitter experience on a couple of occasions, unfortunately, when you overload a very heavy-duty truck, there are dire consequences to that. You, like Steve said, you can lose opportunities. You can break things. You know, if you have a truck that has like a bobtail that has a load rating of 18,500 pounds on the rear axle, and you put 30,000 pounds on that axle, you're going to break something. You're going to hurt somebody. You're going to it's a violation of common sense. And in many instances, I think that we are overloading our truck genie. I've seen it myself. I've seen situations where you've got less than 24 hours to get a critical response in to keep the door open that will provide financial windfall opportunities in the future. But unless you can get this document in and submitted before the deadline expires, you're just you would certainly lose that opportunity. So I've stood behind Jeannie in her office when I'm sure that she had other things that she should have been doing, but there were only the two of us left to get this thing done before the deadline expired. And I can remember thinking at that time that my goodness, how wonderful it would be if you'd had a little bit of depth in your organization at that particular moment in time, that I wouldn't have had to have been overloading you. And I apologize for overloading you at that particular time. Maybe I helped carry the load for you at that particular moment. But I look at nearby counties. Tuolumne is a good example. I don't know, Francine, you must have done the research on this, and could you give us a comparison? I know the statistic very well because I know the supervisors and their organizational staffing over there, but I think, well, just go ahead and tell us what they have.
I looked at over 15 counties, and I know the board has typically always been interested in our neighbors. What we found when Jeannie and I were looking at this information is that administrative offices have been changing the way that they do business, and part of it has to do with the constant budget deadlines and the constant review and analysis. But looking at the counties, 11 of them had classifications of assistant CAO and deputy CAO. And in Amador, they have a deputy and they have a chief fiscal assistant and officer. And in Tuolumne, they have a deputy and an assistant. And then I can provide you all the others. There are numerous counties that actually have an assistant, a chief fiscal assistant officer, and a deputy. Several have 2 assistant executive officers and an executive chief. So that was part of the reason that we took a look at our structure and what was really needed at the high level for those positions. Because years ago, you didn't see that. Years ago, you basically saw a CAO and an assistant, and then several levels of analysts. And I think there was reference earlier about the administrative office before, and that is what you had. You had the CAO, you had 3 analysts, an assistant, and then there are offices that have human resources and their staff in there for that additional depth. And part of what happened here is that the administrative office sort of got dismantled over the years, and to a point that didn't keep up with really this changing time that's really before us. But this is what's out in most of the counties, is what you're seeing. You're seeing the high level so that they can be spread out and address all of the different various needs so they don't miss out on anything. Because right now, every dime is important for all counties.
Okay, well, kind of addressing Mr. Turley's concerns, he's, I think, justifiably fearful that if we spend additional monies in the administrative office, that there may be less money available, and most certainly will be less money available for other positions. What, in your view, how realistic is it to move somebody from one of the other departments in to fill these positions? Are we going to attempt to do that?
I actually think that would be a question that would be better for Jeannie to answer with her expertise in the financial arena. I think you can answer it better than I can.
We're going to open the recruitments, promotional, so county employees can apply first before we open it up to the general public. So we'll see what applications we get. That would be my intent.
I think he's looking for more fiscal. How are we going to fiscally deal with the cost?
Mr. Turley said don't overlook the reality that we may have people in other departments that could fill these jobs. So I just want to make, I wanted to get it clarified that we are going to provide that opportunity for our existing employees.
We will, and we will also open it up. Any position that we open up, we offer to everyone on the laid-off list as well. There are employees that have been placed, but there are still some that are looking for employment. So we will be doing that as well.
Okay. I can come back to some questions if anybody else wants to weigh in.
I don't know. Mr. Tryon, did you have any comments you want to
No,
make?
I do
Mr.
not.
Tuffanelli?
No.
Mr. Thomas, did you want to proceed?
Well, I have to freely admit that there is a little sticker shock associated with the $175,000 total salary and benefit package that would be required for the chief assistant CAO. I would think that, that if we start advertising that position, we'll have a lot of people who would clamor for that. I'm just wondering, how do we come up with that particular salary range and the filling the position at that cost? Is that? I mean, I'm absolutely.
No, that's actually a good question. Whenever we look at salary, especially for new positions, we basically look at two things. We look at the internal structure and the external structure. And so we look internally at the department and other positions that are at that level, because that position would cover in the absence of the CAO and the level of responsibility, critical thinking. Then we also go outside and look at other counties and what they actually compensate positions that are similar. And that's how we came up with the salary. So it's a combination of both. It's not overly high compared to other counties. If anything, it's probably on the lower end. Most of the assistants or chiefs in other counties are compensated at a higher rate. And I have those figures if you'd like me to give you those so you can sort of take a look at them. I think they're done more by monthly amount is how we do it, and then we run the numbers. But this position here is, most of them are somewhere making around 15 grand a month. So this proposal is somewhere between 79. So there's quite a difference, 79 to 96, depending on who applies for the position and what level. This position is not just a set salary. It has a salary range from A to E.
The $15,000 a month you're talking about, that's the total salary and burdens?
That's just the salary.
Just the salary?
Just the salary.
That's
starting at 13, going to 15. It's also on a range.
So
the typical average is between 10 and 13. Tuolumne County is a good example. They are between 82 and 12, so we're sort of in between that. Amador's a little bit lower, and they only have one set range for this position. It's actually in the appointed salaries.
Okay. Okay, so at 82 per month, that would equate to $98,000 annually. And you cited that as being from Tuolumne. What position was that?
Yeah, I have Napa, Stanislaus, Butte, Sutter, Kings, Calaveras, Tuolumne, Amador, San Joaquin. These are some of the counties that got the salaries.
But specifically, what was the position that was, the compensation rate was $8,200 a month in Tuolumne?
That's the assistant CAO, and then the deputy CAO is 79 to 96. They have 2 levels as well.
Okay.
That's where we looked at the structures, because the board typically looks at our neighbors and the compensation.
Thank you, Francine.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments, Mr. Thomas? No?
Well, I just heard Francine say that our neighboring county for this position is at approximately $100,000 annually plus the burden. We're proposing to start this position at $126,800. I'm looking for some rational explanation about why we're going $26,000 over what our neighbors are paying.
I can answer that as well. What we did is we didn't want to come in under budget. Obviously, it's a tight budget year. So what we did is, because it's a range A to E, we calculated the position at C step, so that if when we hire somebody at A step, then we would come under the estimation. You never want to under budget for a position. So we calculated it at C step, depending on the level and the position, so that we would come in above that. And between each step is 5%, so that's why you're seeing a higher amount, because from A to E is 20% on our salary range.
So if this goes up for recruitment, you will advertise it at a salary range that would begin at $100,000 and...
That's right, A to E.
Okay, all right.
But we wanted to make sure that we figured enough income so that as we move into the budget process, we don't end up underfunded for the position.
Okay, thank you very much for your explanation.
Okay, we have the issue before us. I want to remind the board, we did a lot of discussion on this when we were in the interview process with the CAO. We were very concerned about some of the same issues that Mr. Turley brought up. We have looked in depth at the items that we expect the administrative office to be responsible for, many of which Steve alluded to, Francine discussed. It's now time that we take a vote up or down. So if there is still support on the board, based on our prior commitment, I'd entertain a motion.
I will make the motion, but I would also like to comment as I make it.
Of course.
Yes. This is a risky proposition. It's making an investment towards certain ends. The true test of this will be whether the expenditure that is before us will result in savings that are greater than what we're spending. This would be an abject failure otherwise. It's my belief that if we have progress within this year on any of the things we'll be talking about in the next agenda item, but for me, what motivates this motion is what I had earlier referenced as lost opportunities. If we can access the funds that should be coming to this county, and if we can manage them well, this should pay for itself over and over again by multiples. It depends on deployment, it depends on leadership, and I make this motion with the belief that we do have in this office a leader that's prepared to act on those things I just referenced. I would not be making this motion if it were not for that belief and trust. Therefore, Madam Chair, I make this motion to adopt the Human Resources recommendations and approve the resolution.
Do I have a second from a board member?
I would like to second that motion, but it's very important that we emphasize that this $250,000 or $244,000 price tag is the upper limit of what we intend to spend. It conceivably could be $200,000 and no more than that, and I would really encourage every effort to be made to accomplish that savings. I think that we're in a I realize this is kind of a long-winded second, but
It was a long-winded motion, actually. So.
I'm going out on I think we're all going out on a limb here to try to accomplish some things with this restructuring, and but this is extremely. I mean, it's a gross understatement to say this is a tough financial situation that we're in. It's a kind of a leap of faith that I'm willing to make at this particular time. So I second the motion.
I have a motion, I have a second, and I have a challenge before the CAO. All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. And we're taking a 5-minute recess. Meeting back to order. I'm on item 11, please, a resolution endorsing the county's participation in the stimulus Middle Mile Road. I'd like to take item 11 and 12, since for us, when we read it, and I'm sure the public, they're somewhat related. Mr. Stolman.
Thank you, and good morning again. Both items are letters of support for ERA broadband middle mile applications. But I wanted to bring you up to date. When I was first here and addressed you during public comments several weeks ago, we had Alpine and Calaveras as members. Since that time, I've addressed the Economic Development District Board, and their board has formally adopted a position of support, and the Amador County and Tuolumne County boards have as well. So we are now a 4-county coalition supported by the Central Sierra Economic Development District, and they are the applicant for this item. As I said, both of these are middle mile projects. As Supervisor Tryon wanted the efficiencies of working together, they are essentially different middle mile projects. The one that we're proposing, item 11, is a one focused on our 4-county region. It will bring middle mile broadband into the region and extend it into Calaveras and Alpine counties. It'll extend it on the Highway 88, the Highway 4, and 108 corridors, and then down into Copper and Valley Springs as well. The advantages to this network, if we're approved, would be that, one, obviously more broadband accessibility for the residents of Calaveras County, and those residents would be served by last mile operators. And as I said, a public comment, Mr. Ben Hewitt is wanting a support for a federal application to do last mile coverage. So his proposal would be bringing it more to the houses and businesses. Ours is to create the infrastructure that would allow that to exist. This is designed for Calaveras County. It will support public safety and connect all 4 counties in a regional basis to help create that public safety interoperability plan that's been put forth by the Sheriff's Department, as well as extending the broadband into the region. Item number 12, essentially their purpose in presenting this proposal to the government is to connect 14 regional counties up and down the Central Valley. Their primary focus, instead of delivering it into the depths of Calaveras County, Amador and Alpine and Tuolumne, is to connect all of the higher learning and school districts. So they have a different purpose. They do complement one another if they are both funded. Obviously, we would reap the benefit of the fiber that they would put in and be able to expend or expand even further into our region, but they are both designed as standalone projects. The letter that I'm bringing you to from Scenic, item number 12, we'll get a similar letter of support from them as well. So that we are working together, we are supporting each other's applications, but make no doubt about it, these applications do compete with one another as they are through the same federal channel. So they will be seen by the same group of reviewers. We will be in competition for them. So my preference, obviously, is to support item number 11, as that is custom tailored to the 4-county region. However, item 12 does bring some benefit. If ours doesn't get approved, that one does get approved, there is still some benefit to the region as well. So working as an advocate for the board, my recommendation is that you support both efforts because either one of them will benefit the county. Obviously, item 11, I think, as custom tailored to the needs of Calaveras County and Alpine Tuolumne and Amador will serve us better. So I'm happy to entertain any questions on either of the items.
Steve?
I had the privilege of serving on the Sierra Nevada Conservancy Board in the last 2 years, and we reviewed millions of dollars of applications, and they came from 5 different regions of the Sierra Nevada. Whenever we got 2 proposals, even if they covered different areas, we would take the general thought, and this is just that board, but I'm wondering whether this review will cause the same thing. It appeared that small rural counties that had 4 or 5, sometimes, different proposals, even in the same area, for instance, the water-related proposals from this county, appeared to compete. But what it really said, because collaboration was a high point basis for this, that there was not the level of collaboration necessary to score very highly on that, and therefore some of the Calaveras and Central Sierra proposals failed on that basis. I'm wondering whether collaboration points are important in this process, and whether the fact of competition, even if it's in separate areas, by overlapping interests will defeat both, or could mitigate toward that.
I would never speculate as to what a group of reviewers would do. Collaboration is one of the components of this grant. Both applications will, by grant policy, reference the other because we're aware of the other grant. We are working together in a spirit of cooperation. However, they are very, very different projects. One has a limited focus on schools and higher education and connecting them with fiber. The other actually reaches out into the community to bring broadband into the community. As many of you know, in our area, we are limited because we don't have access to wholesale internet. We have to backhaul everything, or the ISPs have to backhaul it all into Stockton and Sacramento, and that adds significantly to the cost.
Let me try to be more specific here. Isn't it conceivable that bringing this into the county, deep into the county, could also somehow bring it to the schools that are deep into the county? Isn't that a concept that could be incorporated into a joint proposal, and is it too late?
It is too late to be a joint proposal. However, the concept that you're saying is part of the application. That is the point of cooperation that they are working towards for us. Their proposal only brings it to the County Office of Education. This project would extend it into the community and pick up all of the school districts and the individual schools. So the schools and the school districts are our anchor tenants, the ones that would be served by this project. Their anchor tenants are the County Office of Education and then the local government and the hospital. So we overlap some, and it's not a problem to be anchor tenants in 2 applications, but ours truly does reach out into the community and pick up those other institutions, and that's how we cooperate with one another.
Are there any other questions?
Mr. Stolman, when I met with Mr. West, I talked about the scenic application. I came away with the understanding that although the thrust of their infrastructure improvements was going to interconnect their very impressive existing infrastructure of the high-speed internet connections, their fiber optics and that. But he also seemed to stress that there would be economic benefits to the region, that that they're going to be bringing all this power in, or the capability in, that it wouldn't be exclusively available to schools, is what I understood. Was I wrong about that? Or?
No, you were not wrong. You were correct. By definition, both applications have to be open.
Okay.
They have to allow access to the networks. The Calaveras proposal, or the regional proposal, combines fiber optic access and wireless access. So we're actually reaching out onto the mountaintops. Local ISPs would be able to either come to one of the regional fiber optic POPs or points of presence, or reach the mountaintops and be able to serve their communities from that. The CNET proposal only does a fiber point of presence at the Office of Education, and the local ISPs would need to make their own way back to that point of presence. So essentially we're allowing the ISPs to reach more citizens for less money. Their model is open and does provide some economic benefit. It just is a little more difficult for the ISPs to get back to Angels Camp.
This is kind of an adjunct to what we're talking about here, but I get the sense that we've had this availability of the internet for a good many years now, but I also get the sense that we're just scratching the surface of its capability. On the way here this morning, I heard about a Cisco announcement. The Cisco Systems was announcing today some revolutionary type of thing that they're unveiling today, that the person who was talking about this for Cisco said that with this new system in place, you could download the entire contents of the Library of Congress in 1 second. That's a pretty impressive statement of fact, but I think that if Calaveras County is going to continue to grow and prosper, it'll be in large part because of the new availability of people to work in their homes and conduct their businesses over the internet. And so I have no problem supporting both of these applications myself. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Tryon, did you have any?
No, I do not.
Okay. Mr. Tuffanelli? Mr. Stallman, is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
I would like to agree with Supervisor Thomas. The internet is the wave of the future. We have many departments here who will be changing their business structures to provide those services on the internet. With broadband internet, you now have the ability to download the Library of Congress, or to meet with a health professional that perhaps is at UC Davis over a live video link that you could do from the privacy of your home or from a local medical clinic, those kinds of institutions. So the world is going to be an internet, it already is, but it's going to be more and more dependent on high-speed availability of internet access for its people.
Mr. Stallman, how much is this grant, the value of this grant for the 4 counties?
We're still working on the budget. At this point, it stands somewhere in the $15 million range. There is a 20% match. The match is is an in-kind match for services rendered from our consultants and from our staff, as well as private contributions from our business partners. So this is a public-private endeavor. We have 3 local telephone companies involved in this endeavor, and they are making infrastructure and cash available for the matching part of this grant.
Okay, thank you for your 3 months of total dedication to this. Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Segali and any other member of the public who would like to address item 11 and 12.
Yeah, just touched on my question. What is the effect on the taxpayer? Are we going to use public money, tax money for this? I just heard that there's a grant that's happening there. Is that grant coming from government sources? Is it
Federal
from the
government, from
the federal
stimulus
government?
money.
The federal government is not very stable.
Then we might not get the grant.
And what is the effect on for our local taxpayers?
That's a good question. Mr. Stallman, did you want to answer Mr. Seals?
The grant is a federal stimulus grant. I would never suppose to argue the financial position of our country, but the grant is already out there. The money is going to be spent. I think we would be remiss in not trying to get a cut of that for Calaveras County. As to the local taxpayers, this will have no impact, other than staff time that's already invested and presumably will be invested a little bit more as we go forward. The network will become a private or maintained by a private company and managed by a public agency. So the only effect to the local taxpayer would be a commitment to staffing meetings and going forward with some GIS and that kind of stuff. But it's really minimal.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good morning, Bill Schmidt from Mountain Ranch. As I look around the county to see where broadband is delivered and where it's not, amazingly enough, I find myself in the middle of the information superhighway wasteland. Customers served by Volcano Telephone and Calaveras Telephone have access right now to broadband. Valley Springs through the cable company, San Andreas, Angels Camp, I believe Arnold, all these places have broadband availability, and I understand the middle mile concept and the last mile concept. Part of the justification for this money is that 26% of the county is either underserved or not served by broadband, and that's all well and good. I don't see this doing anything to change that. My own internet service is provided by a private individual who has bought or leases 4 T1 lines from the phone company and also has a microwave link from Stockton to Sierra Vista, Quiggs Mountain, which he then distributes wirelessly. It's a wonderful thing. It beats the heck out of broadband. I guess I'm a little concerned. The most terrifying words can be, "I'm from the government and I'm here to help." The connectivity, like Mr. Stone was talking about, the backhaul and stuff like that. We're all for better internet service and a big pipe, but I'd sort of like to have it explained to me exactly how this is going to eventually cure that 26% thing. Also in the board packet, it was talking about, or in your resolution, it talks about public safety, and as a member of the board of Central Fire, we're also public safety, and I don't see us being served except in Glencoe. We have the ability to have broadband by Volcano Telephone, but everywhere else throughout our district, there's not much addressing it. I'm not aware of what might be addressed to make sure that fire is included, because in this county, at least, even though OES is run through the sheriff's department, most of our major emergencies are fire-related rather than flood or whatever, any other thing that might be a sheriff's department thing. So those are just my concerns.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or concerns?
Just following on from my neighbor, Bill, It was mentioned that the services would come up Highway 88 and 4, and I was wondering about Highway 26 and Mountain Ranch Road, that area. Would there be coverage? And I mean, would that depend on line of sight? I'm not too familiar with whether that area would be covered by Highway 88 or Highway 4. Somehow I doubt it, but that would be my question.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Stolman, could you please address?
I agree with the speaker's comments. There presently is no service, and the fire districts are considered anchor tenants and public safety, so the intent is to be able to provide service to them as well. The network does go up Highway 88. It's using a combination of fiber and microwave. It also goes up Highway 26, Highway 4, and 108, and along Highway 49. So there are multiple places where we're serving it by fiber, where the intent is to serve it with fiber optics, and then the rest of it is to serve it with microwave. We are anticipating that we're designing a network as a 3 gigabit backbone, so very fast and robust. The local internet provider that's on Quiggs's mountain right now is in support of this. It will bring his cost down. He will be able to, instead of backhauling microwave to Stockton, he'll be able to pick it up right at Quiggs Mountain. So it'll lessen the expense that he has to pay for his bandwidth, and he'll be able to pick up more bandwidth for less money right there. The theory is now the local internet providers can reach out and get to their customers in a more efficient manner.
Thank you. If there's no other public comment or questions, I'm going to bring this back to the board. Do any of the board members?
Mr. Schmidt
Yes.
had one.
Yes. Right now, a lot of the county is served telephone-wise by AT&T, and in the more remote areas, in order to deliver a DSL signal, they were able to put what they call remote terminals in the ground that basically take a fiber optic cable and then distribute it through a neighborhood and stuff like that. I'm just wondering if there's any thing in that program for, not that I'm out here to get tax money for AT&T, but if there's some way to distribute that in the neighborhood too.
The plan as is designed now does not call for AT&T DSL redistribution. The position of our group is that AT&T has had ample opportunity to do that on their own and has yet failed to deliver that service. DSL can be made available, but part of the DSL dilemma is, again, getting it connected to the wholesale part. So I don't believe, and I don't know this to be true, I don't believe that Mountain Ranch has the capability of providing 3 gigabits back to the internet, even if it was to deploy DSL on a more regional or localized basis. So our intent is again, to reach out and make that bandwidth available in the Mountain Ranch, in the unserved areas. It is not just to beef up what's already being served.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back to the board for any further comments. And Bill, you're welcome to call Howard. I've had several of my constituents I've stuck on him. Any other comments? For the Ebbets Pass quarter, this is really most welcome. I have many, many people who work in Ebbets Pass or who would like to stay. They might be part-timers. They would like to live up here, but because of the type of reception they have, they can't. And I have whole pockets of communities wanting this kind of service. And I'm just happy that we're this far along in the process. The Greater Arnold Business Association has written a letter of support. I'm hoping the Calaveras Chamber would. the letters are due in by the 11th of March, Mr. Stolman? If there are,
Yes, there was a 2-week extension, so we have a little bit of grace.
so if any of you are members of groups that would like to write letters of support, it would be greatly appreciated. You could do your letters to Howard or directly to the federal government. We'll get you the name and address. If there's no other comments from the board, I will take item 11 and 12 together, unless board members would like them done separately.
Chairman Callaway, or Chairperson Callaway, I'd like to make a motion on 11 first. It differs slightly from the other one, but
Yeah, it does.
I move that we approve the attached resolution endorsing Calaveras County's participation in the Central Sierra Economic Development District Middle Mile Broadband Project, and we authorize the board chair to sign a letter of support.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Item 12, Mr. Thomas.
Okay, on this one, I recommend, or I move that the board approve a minute order authorizing the board chair to sign a letter of support for the Scenics possessive Central Valley Next Generation Broadband Infrastructure Plan.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes on a 5-0. Thank you. I'd like to move to item 13, review for correspondence, et cetera. Mr. Tryon, you've been so quiet. Thank you, God. And would you like to start, please?
Now you poked him.
Don't provoke.
Don't provoke him.
I have nothing to
We've
bring
had
before the
enough of
board, Madam Chair.
that. Okay, thank you. Mr. Walensky.
I have, tomorrow I'll be attending the First Five Conference in Sacramento. I have a CHIPS board meeting that evening and the Friends of Railroad Flat School meeting after that. On Friday, I have the Behavioral Health Jobs Club meeting and gathering. We have a meeting with Head Start at noon, and at 3 o'clock, the JPA Child Support. And by the way, Marita, I don't know if we've got a location yet. I haven't seen that. But it's either in the library or at CalWorks as that
It's at the
last
library.
information. Okay, at the library. And I'm going on Saturday to the Planning Department's General Plan meeting in Railroad Flat from 11 to 1 at the Railroad Flat Community Hall.
Mr. Tuffanelli.
I have down on my calendar the 10th tomorrow, Wednesday, tomorrow, from 10 to 12, a camera meeting. Do you
Oh,
have it?
yes, I'm sorry, I forgot to call that out, but I'm looking for a substitute because I'll be at the First Five.
That's the Calaveras, Amador, McCollum River Authority, Joint Powers Authority. I'll be attending that. That's at CCWD's boardroom from 10 to 12 tomorrow. On Friday, I will be in San Andreas at the Town Hall from 6:30 to 8:30. George, is that correct? 6:30 to 8:30 for the General Plan Workshop in District 1 in San Andreas. I will also be Monday attending a public workshop for the Highway 1226 intersection improvement project. That starts at 6 and it goes till 8 p.m. and it's at the Jenny Lynn Elementary School multi-purpose room in Jenny Lynn. Actually, Rancho Calaveras. And that concludes
Mr.
my
Thomas.
program.
All right. Tomorrow morning at 10:30, I've been asked to attend a meeting with Steve Andres with the Mountain Valley Emergency Services to discuss some contract language in the ambulance contract that would allow Copperopolis fire district to do transports in certain instances. Okay, and then, let's see. I will also be attending the town hall meeting that Supervisor Toffanelli mentioned in San Andreas on Friday, as well as the public workshop for the intersection discussion on Monday. Since this is inclusive of items of concern, I just wonder if the other board members got a letter from Fish and Game about the declaration of that yellow-legged frog as an endangered species. That that's the Center for Biological Diversity. I mean, I just have this fear that if we don't let things like that, if we just let them go unchallenged, that our recreational economy here, as it relates to the fishing, the opportunities for trout fishing and everything. This group, and did you meet with them on the bio plant?
Not yet, actually. They're in Arizona, and we're going to be headed down there to try to engage them in a little bit of a debate on forest practices.
I really don't get it. It's almost like if we don't jump up and say, wait a minute, you can't do this to us. I mean, does anybody else feel like that we're being kind of steamrolled or rolled over by a small group of environmentalists from Arizona? Just bothers me a lot.
In terms of Calaveras County, the Fish and Game Commission has been working with the California Fish and Game Commission. They've been doing the environmental assessments on each of our waterways to see if we can still stock. And the priorities have been shads, white pines, and angels. And they're going to be moving up the mountain on it. So we have been working with them closely on as a local Fish and Game Commission.
Well, I regard that as it's a totally necessary effort, but it's reactionary. I mean, completely reacting to the ramifications of this group's action. I don't know exactly what to do about it, but I just am not content to be silent about their attack, on our region. So I don't know. I'm maybe tilting at windmills, but I just don't like it.
Well, Gary?
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
Are you done on this subject?
Actually, I have one small addition. It seems to me that we in the Sierra have had a number of different moments where the relationships between local groups, and I'm including environmental groups in that, and people who are thinking in sort of more abstract and faraway terms have come into some conflict about how to do best stewardship practices in each of our communities. And this is, one could take a look at it as a legal issue, as many of the folks from way out of town do, or you could take a look at it as a relational and best practices issue and something based in science, which most of the local people have come to some accommodation and figured things out. Quincy Library Group was one such example where people did get together, and then ultimately, while local environmental groups and timber operators and logging interests got together and had a plan, there were national organizations that interceded in a legal, in a litigious kind of mode. In my view, the best way to prevent these things from becoming long-term and almost targeted conflicts is to try to develop better relationships so that people can actually learn what's going on here. An example would be Forest Legacy, which had filed lawsuits in relation to the Quincy project, was invited with their biologists to come to District 2 and take a look at the forest and the condition of the forest, which are really not exactly what you might think of from Arizona or far, far away. You might think of them as pretty, pristine, beautiful forests, but in fact, they have been logged, they're overgrown, a good portion of it's in plantations. They are now unhealthy and pose not only fire danger, but biological, they in fact are biological catastrophes. So if you apply science, as finally Forest Legacy did, they now are supporters of projects that are going on to do thinning and restoration work on the watershed and in the national forests and BLM. So lawsuits dropped, new relationships developed, and they're involved in monitoring and making the plans to do the restoration work. I think the Center for Biological Diversity has been too far away to really be able to judge what's going on here, and so my hope is that given a close-up look at the facts on the ground, that they will come to the same conclusions that many local environmental groups have, and that we'll find ways to get along and agree. Some people tell me that's a long shot, but I think that's the best thing we can do affirmatively, is try to develop fact-based relationships and a good exchange of information.
When are you going to go see them?
Well, we've got the...
And will they see you?
Well, I plan to drop in, but we're also,
open mic
we've sent
time.
an invitation for their biologists to come and visit our area, but we're also hoping to meet with them first so that we can outline what's really happening here.
Well, I applaud that
Anybody
effort.
wishing to join would be most welcome.
I'd like to be there.
Okay, yes,
I have one correction. The camera meeting, I've been given an agenda, it's the 17th. It's not this Wednesday, it's the following Wednesday.
So I withdraw my request for a substitute.
okay.
I had it as the 10th for some reason. Maybe originally it was the 10th, but it's been changed.
They're going to meet on St. Patrick's Day?
I have with Steve Central Sierra Child Support on Friday. I have a conflict. I'm hoping someone could attend that meeting. Russ, you're the alternate. Can you attend? It should be a short meeting. It's at 3 o'clock in the library here in San Andreas.
And say again what that
Central Sierra Child Support Agency.
yes, I can be there.
Got it. Thank you. Would you give me the packet? I appreciate it. Ms. Boyce?
Reading to you, buddy.
A couple of items regarding the state budget. The good news for Calaveras County is that the governor has actually signed the cash management deferral bill, which provides an exemption for counties under $50,000 and 50,000 in population. So that's really good news for us in terms of our cash flow. So the state will hold on to our money that we had anticipated they might hold on to for social services and transportation. There has been an alternative gas tax swap. Two bills have gone to the governor for signature. It's unclear whether or not he will sign them. It eliminates the sales tax on gasoline, except for diesel, and replaces those with an increase in excise tax. It will protect some funding for local roads and streets, as well as transit. There's some debate as to whether the governor will sign it or not, because it does not include language which would provide savings to Prop 98 that he would like to see. So we'll see whether or not, and maybe Tom Garcia has more information about that. There have been two court rulings this week, one with regards to the Medi-Cal provider rate cuts and the in-home supportive services wage cuts that the Schwarzenegger administration implemented last year, or tried to, as part of the budget process. The U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, the 9th District, has prohibited the state from cutting the 5% from the provider rates for Medi-Cal. This has been an ongoing issue with cutting Medi-Cal rates for years. It's, every year it's tried, and it's usually thrown out by the courts. So once again, the governor plans to appeal that, but for now, there will not be an additional 5% rate cut to Medi-Cal providers, including adult day health care, hospitals, and pharmacies. The other ruling had to do with the in-home supportive services. The governor had proposed to reduce the state share of the in-home supportive services provider wages from $12.10 an hour to $9.50, and that was also thrown out by the court. Schwarzenegger, again, has expressed his desire to appeal that. The governor did win a little victory on his blue pencils of child welfare services and other funding. Essentially, he had cut an additional amount from the budget once the budget was proposed, and the Senate Democrats had challenged that additional reduction. It was about $200 million in state cuts. The court has ruled that the governor does have that authority, and so those cuts will remain. So those are just the few things that are happening on the front that add and detract from the state budget deficit, and we'll see how it all pans out, I think, after the May revise. So that's all for now.
And every week you'll report to us something.
Every week I will probably report something different, yeah, unfortunately.
Mr. Jones,
I have nothing to report.
we'll take a 5-minute recess. Yeah.
Yes, I reluctantly have to correct myself on Friday. Supervisor Toffenelli and I have an obligation in Modesto Friday afternoon. I don't think that I can be back for that.
Mr. Tryon, you can't do that? Okay, thank you.
I apologize.
He saw how thick this was, and he didn't know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to stand in recess and get ready for our study session at 10 o'clock. So I just figure whoever's still talking will be the last one on the budget list of priorities. I knew that word. You know, after what we discussed earlier and where we're going now, all of you, I'm sure, have read the staff report. I'm sure you read the news, you read the papers, you listen to the news. And you see the challenges that all of us face as a county. We're all in this together. And it's, as far as this board is concerned, it's a very open process. It's a very public